Now, joining us live from Nottingham right now is Leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, welcome to GB News Breakfast. You've been watching the markets this morning. They're up about 5%. What on earth do you think Donald Trump is up to over in America?
So normally, when you get a big stock market fall, you get a corresponding rise in the bond market. So say you're a pension fund investor, you might lose money on behalf of your people on the equities, but you make a bit of it back on the bonds. And every time we have a stock market crash, that pattern repeats. This time it was different. This time we saw stock markets going down and bond prices falling as well, which led to real panic amongst the investment community. And by the way, the same thing happened here. You know, 10-year interest rates yesterday in Britain traded over 5%. And the reason for this is the size of American national debt, the size of British national debt. And I think, frankly, what happened is some of Donald Trump's biggest supporters said, whoa, you please got to take your foot off the brake. Otherwise, we're going to be in big trouble. So it was definitely a move caused by the markets, but equally caused by some of those who put a lot of money into Donald Trump's campaign.
And we've lost our Brexit benefit, haven't we, Nigel? I mean, everybody's got these 10% tariffs now.
Yeah, that's right. However, we're in a much better place to negotiate than the European Union is. Donald Trump actually likes us. Our trade with America is roughly even, as opposed to the European Union, who he dislikes intensely and who, of course, on cars have a massive surplus. So we are in a much better position than our neighbours in Europe to negotiate a tariff-free package. I absolutely believe that that is achievable over the course of the next month or two.
Nigel Farage, do you think, as the Daily Mail says today, that Trump blinked, that he went too far? Once those bond markets got spooked about 2 days ago, he had to do something, and he's backed down from these global tariffs, the bigger ones?
Yeah, look, as I said to you a moment ago, you know, stocks and bonds do not normally fall at the same time. So, yeah, this is a reaction to the markets. I mean, clearly, his trade war with China is all too real. You could argue that others in the way were part of the collateral damage. But I think, you know, the reality that tariffs on their own are somehow going to give you the revenues to cut taxes, that may well need quite a big rethink. And who knows where Peter Navarro, his trade guy, will be in a couple of weeks' time. Big divisions within the Trump cabinet over this.
Yeah, there certainly are. You mentioned there the trade deal. You think it is achievable in the near future. What do you think it could look like? I mean, there's fear amongst our viewers emailing in about chlorinated chicken and the like. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I wonder whether your viewers know that every single bag of pre-packed salad they buy in British supermarkets has been treated with chlorine. I wonder whether they know that. And look, you know, if there were agricultural products on our shelves from America that we disapproved of, provided it's labelled clearly, we don't have to buy it. And look, I'll tell you this, Trump told me face to face in 2017, I want to do a free trade deal with the UK. I want to do it quickly. And it didn't happen because the Conservatives dithered after the referendum result. It took us years to actually leave the European Union. So there have been big wasted opportunities. But I promise you, this deal can be done.
You're probably the longest-serving friend, if that's the word, in UK politics with Donald Trump. But you haven't spoken to him, have you, since he became president back in January? Why is that? Why are you not using your influence to try and help Keir Starmer get the best out of this special relationship?
I have made it absolutely clear that I would do anything I could to help us get a trade deal, to help us with any form of the relationship, but I have to have the sanction of the UK government to do it. If I go directly to the American administration, you know, I will be interfering with British government policy, and I'm not going to do that. The difference is, you know, first time round in 2017 onwards, I wasn't a British member of Parliament. So I'm in a very different position. I'm not going to be seen to interfere with what the government's doing. But if they ask me to help, I promise you I do it, not because I'm a supporter of the Labour Party, far from it, but I do it in the national interest.
Can I ask you about British Steel and Scunthorpe? I know you were there earlier on this week. We've had those crisis talks, haven't we, between the government and the Chinese owner of British Steel. Unfortunately, no deal there so far. What do you make of the situation and what would you do?
We should never have sold British steel to the Chinese. Both Richard Tice and I objected to it vehemently at the time. I'm of the view that the Chinese bought British steel to close British steel down because they want themselves to dominate the global steel market. We are now, within 48 hours, if we do not get a proper deal done within 48 hours, then we'll become the only member of the G20, the only major nation in the world that does not produce primary steel. And this is part of an industrial massacre that is going on across our country, and you can look all the way through refining, aluminium making, chemical production, cement making, the list goes on, of things that have closed because of the net zero policies put in place by Boris Johnson and Theresa May's governments, and now being carried through by Ed Miliband and others in this government to a level that frankly is a disaster for British workers. Of course I feel for the 3,000 families in Scunthorpe who are about to lose their livelihoods, but I also want to make this point. At a time when we're talking about increasing defence spending, at a time when the world is in a more dangerous place than it's been at any point, certainly in my lifetime, steel is an absolutely vital strategic national asset. The government needs to nationalise British steel, do it quickly, and then let's find a way of getting a private consortium to take it over. But everything on our industrial future hinges on ending massive subsidies for renewable energy, which is unreliable, and the fact we don't produce enough of our own gas as backup. This is all being done by government policy. There's no national debate about it because both the Conservatives and Labour have agreed for years that net zero was the holy grail. It is ruining the British economy.
Well, we've got you now, Nigel Farage. Lots of viewers and listeners of GB News are disappointed about your falling out with Rupert Lowe. It seems all he wants is to meet you for dinner and put it to one side. Why? I mean, yeah, you're rolling your eyes, but they want you to get together. Why can't you just put together your rows and take on your rival parties?
Why don't you leave Westminster and come out in the real world? I've now spent 2 weeks. I'll be walking down high streets today in Derbyshire, in Staffordshire. One person in 2 weeks has mentioned this to me. As you know, an independent KC report that interviewed the women who'd made the allegations of bullying said there was credible evidence. Let's wait and see what the parliamentary committee does. And can you imagine what you'd have said to me, Chris, if I'd had bullying allegations made against a member of my team and I'd done nothing about it? Can you imagine?
Well, he denies all wrongdoing, of course.
OK. Nigel Farage, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Alex Armstrong and Alison Cork are here reviewing the papers this morning, but I did just want to get your thoughts on what Nigel Farage had to say there. Alison, let's start with you.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, normally politics is about political point scoring. So Nigel's comment about not wanting to interfere with government, I thought was quite refreshing. Yeah. And if he sees that through, then I'm actually quietly impressed by that.
Yeah, and wanting to work in the national interest, Alex.
Absolutely. And he's right about nationalising steel. He's right about us not selling off of one of our most important national security assets, which is to be able to build and use steel in this country. It's so vitally important. We should have done it years ago. We can't be... I mean, this is the failure of globalisation, as Keir Starmer has alluded to, is that we've actually sold off things in our country that we vitally need. If there was a war, imagine we had to import our steel from a foreign country.
What else did you make of what he had to say there, Alison?
I think this opportunity for the UK now to look attractive by comparison to other countries to do business with. So I think there is, perhaps the UK is now sitting in a warmer, brighter light because of what Trump has done. You know, when a butterfly flaps its wings, you feel the reverberations a long way away, and I think we could be feeling those reverberations in a positive way.